Um, Fellow Southern Cameroonians, fellow the English speaking Cameroonians. Today is a dark day in the English expression in the people of Southern Cameroon. We have fellow Southern Cameroonians that has been on trial by the Republique Du Cameroun against their will. We, the English speaking, have been living with La Republique du Cameroun for quite some time, and it has come to our notions that it is difficult for us to live together as brothers, and so the only thing we can do at this point is to forge ahead with our total and complete separation from La Republique and gain our independence, because that is the only way we can devise or restructure the Anglophone territory. Right now, as we're speaking, we have some Southern Cameroonian leaders that have been arrested and placed on trial simply because they are advocating for a total and freedom for the people of English expression. And these ongoing challenges has been facing many people of the English expression in the Southern Cameroon territory. Southern Cameroon territory was a territory that gained her independence from the British colony. And so since then, even though they gained their independence, they had a conditional independence from the British colony. Remember that this territory, after the United Nations and General Assembly decided that the trusted territory of the colony, or that were proud to the German colony, and that they should be managed to their complete independence. And this territory, many African nations gained their independence, but certain territorial territory, for which the Southern Cameroon is one of the territory, they were given conditional independence, and those conditional independence state that they can either join La Republique or join Nigeria, but they're never given the options whether they should remain as an independent territory. And so that is what finds us in this mess, as you see today, that many of these leaders are finding it uncomfortable living with La Republique together. The students' demonstration, not only just the students, but the professors as well of the English expression, find it difficult living together with La Republique, and they thought that the solutions to this problem is to remain total separation. When students demonstrated against certain reform that is needed at the Anglophone territory, they witnessed a brutal and armed forces being dispatched by La Republique, or the French-speaking, to this English-speaking territory. They brutalize, harass, rape the women. And this form of injustice has been continued prevailing in the Southern Cameroon territory. Businesses have been brutalized. Every individual tried to question the authority, and they find that it's unfavorable outcome. We, the English-speaking Southern Cameroonians, was not colonized by La Republique du Cameroun. We also possess the same equality like La Republique, despite the fact that within the past 56 years, none of the Southern Cameroon has ever been the hem of the enterprise of La Republique. And this has been ongoing challenges. And so the solutions to these problems is that if the Southern Cameroon can remain total complete separation from La Republique, then we, the English speaking, can now transform the southern Cameroon in a structure that could be habited by people of English expression. As I re-echoed before, the southern Cameroon has always practiced democracy. They have always have an elected officials, and these officials gain power. And there is a peaceful transition of power from one person to the next. This system of transition of power has never occurred in La Republique. And as I'm going to dwell on what is the Constitution of La Republique, let's take a look at some of the constitutional articles of La Republique. And that is not how a democratic society should function. A democratic society can only function if there is a separation of the powers, a separation of the executive, separation of the judiciary, and the legislature. And each of this department will act as an umpire to each other to check what they call checking and balancing. And that is the fundamental principle. So we of the Anglophone expressions find that that is the only way to society can function independently. And when the society functions in this format, then there is a freedom of expression. There is a freedom of function. There is a freedom of movement. There is a freedom that the people inherit. Remember, the creation of the earth was to make the society more functional so that those creations can be able to enjoy the society for the length of the period that they are here in this earth. But certain individuals take that as an opportunity to grossly mismanage and violate other individuals against the will of the people. Because we were brought up in this format of freedom of society, of the English culture system, we uniquely respect these fundamental principles. And after we got married to the Francophone, we find that they are the very dangerous husband we have ever had. And we believe that it is time we have to let go La Republique and that we form our own territory, that we can be able to govern our own people, so that the people also have the power to eliminate those who are not governed according to the will of the people. And that has been a good society that has existed prior to the current situation. We have the Anglophone leaders that are being tried by the military tribunal in La Republique. La Republique du Cameroun understand that the Anglophones cannot be tried in La Republique. Secondly, not by a military tribunal, when they are questioning the authority, whether if they are legitimate. Let's look at the Constitution of La Republique. Part 1 of the state sovereignty. The United Republic of Cameroon shall effect from the date of entry into the force of this law be known as La Republique Du Cameroun. That's Article 1 of this Constitution of La Republique. It says, the United Republic of Cameroon shall effective from the date of entry into the force of this law shall be known as Republic of Cameroon. If this is true, then it violates the Anglophone territory, because Anglophone territory is part of this union, and therefore this said article violates the Anglophone people expressions. The Cameroon people, the people of the English expression, cannot by a single decree sign, eliminate one to a territory that have equal value, equal independence, like La Republique as well. And therefore, by signing a single decree without a referendum conducted by these people of English expression, and deliberately eliminate them by a single decree, is a violation of that unanimous duty of joining to live together as a brotherliness. In order to form this particular decree, La Republique should have conducted a referendum whether the people of Anglophone choose to remain a United Republic of Cameroon or they choose to remain in the federal system. We, the English expression, are not, we of the people of English expression, are not a conquered territory. We are not a defeated territory. We are people of equal identity that we choose that we can live together as one brothers and sisters. A single individual called Paul Biya cannot unanimously by himself sign a decree, eliminate a complete independent country whom they are living together and form a unitary state without them forming a referendum. That is a violation of the people of the Southern Cameroon of English expression. Let's go detailedly to look at it. It says here, the official language of the Republic of Cameroon shall be English and French. If the language of the people of Cameroon shall be English and French, and this implies that there are two colonial territories. You have the English expression and the French expression. So you cannot say it will be a unitary state without a referendum to justify that declaration, and then at the same time you say there shall be two official language. Then at the same time you fail to recognize that there are two people of separate entity, of two different identity, two philosophy, two education, two legal system. I am not reading from the document written by someone else. It's La Republique Constitution. Then let's go detail again to look at it. Article 6 of that same document of the executive power. The President of the Republic, Article 6, the President of the Republic shall be elected by majority of the vote cast through direct, equal and sacred universal suffrage. The President of the Republic shall be elected for a term official of 7 years. He shall be eligible for re-election. That's Article 6. The President shall be elected by the people, and he shall have a term of 7 years, and he shall be eligible to another term of elections. But then the question arises, when does his term limit comes in? In this very constitution, there is no term limit. And that is why you find him in power for the 35 years today. The president is above the constitution which he himself has written. The president does not have a check and balance. The president has has authority over the people whom they are the people he's supposed to derive his power. In this same article says the president is eligible, which means he doesn't have a term limit. He's a life president. He just have to go there and the people stand and say, "Oh, Mr. President, you are the president of the Cameroon." That is the barbaric system that we, the Anglophone, find it difficult to comprehend. And we believe that if us choose to live as a separate nation, we can build a nation that has the fundamental principles where there is a term limit of each executive or each member of the different branch of government. When a president has a term limit, that he himself cannot manipulate such a term, then there is a freedom of people because they can choose a leader and able to, when the terms of his office came to end, another leader will come on, and that each people will evaluate each of those leaders and determine whether whom did they have as one of the best leaders. And that is how the laws of the society should function. But in La Republique, no, the president is above the law. The president stands against the will of the people. He chooses to decide who has to be and what has to be done. And that we, the Anglophone, find this offensive for us. And so the only way solution to this problem is that we need to leave La Republique and form our own separate nations. Let's dive through still on the La Republique Constitution. When the office of the president becomes vacant as a result of death, resignation, or permanent incapacity, still, this doesn't give the president term limit. The president is there till when he becomes incapacitated, even though his mental status now is questionable whether if he still functions in the full capacity for beer. His mental status, now we don't know whether if psychiatry has been evaluated, whether it is still functions in the full capacity. Right now, as we're speaking, the president can only resign or death or permanent incapacitation, which means he is a life president as he has been for the past 35 years. The president of the Senate shall have the right of the interim president. The president of the Senate shall have the right of to succeed. Should subsection 4 of the article state, if the president becomes incapacitated, then the Senate president takes over. If the Senate president takes over, in this Senate which he promulgated, has 30 members of the members being appointed by him, while 70 are shared by the various political groups in Cameroon. If he appoints 30 and his party has majority of the elected officials, which means they determine who has to succeed him without the will of the people of Cameroon. And that's why we, the Anglophone speaking, find this offensive, and that we has to leave this territory and form our own territory so that we can have our own freedom where we choose, write our constitution, that not a single individual shall violate those constitutions, but except all of us through a referendum to discard and disable those constitutions where both of us disagree on, and not that it may force upon us. Let's look detail again on the same constitution of La Republique. In Article 10, the president shall appoint the prime minister. And if you look at the real structure, the prime minister should succeed the president because he is the head of the government who manages day-to-day activities of the government. But in this constitution, it is a member of the Senate that the president has appointed. Even though this structure, the